Hey everybody, welcome back. Northernlion plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. It's been a weekend, it's been a couple of days. I've decompressed from my earlier Isaac distaste, and here we are ready to be a happy boy. Get ready to be a happy boy. Again, playing some Isaac. Fresh and tasty. Yeah, so I mean, I don't really, like, it's, you know, we were talking about a video game. I don't really feel the need to necessarily, like, apologize. I'm a very apologetic guy. I apologize oftentimes, you know, I genuinely, and Dan and I have talked about this before. By the way, our stats are amazing here. 7HEEW7 8D. Man, can you imagine seeing an 8D movie? Jeez, what would a ticket for that be? Like $500? I don't know. I don't know where that joke's going. But Dan and I have talked about it before. Like a life pro tip I honestly agree with is, you know, if apologizing would make a situation better, you should consider apologizing even if you don't necessarily think that you're 100% in the wrong, if that makes sense. I know it sounds heretical, the idea that someone would, you know, owe you an apology, but instead you would apologize. Like, what kind of message does that send? It sends the message that the most important thing is getting over the conflict, you know, and getting back to brass tacks, if that makes sense. It depends on the situation, you know, like if somebody hits you with their car and then is like, apologize for, you know, walking in front of my car, even though you had the walk signal. Obviously, I'm not going to be like, oh, you should just take the L on that one. But, you know, I see it, you know, most disputes, at least most, like, you know, small disputes, most personal disputes, result from, like, a difference of opinion, is my perspective. You know, both people feel that they have been wronged, both, at least in the moment. Both people feel that the other person should be the one that makes the apology, or at least extends the first olive branch. Then there's nothing wrong. You don't, in my opinion at least, you don't lose face by being the person who extends that first olive branch. If you do, you might want to reconsider the kind of people you're hanging out with. I would never, you know, consciously or unconsciously, I hope, you know, look at someone and be like, oh, I can treat them worse because they'll apologize to me. You know, I think that's where you got to examine your own hunch about how that's going to go and consider how that came to pass. But so I find myself overly apologetic sometimes. It's always annoying when somebody apologizes for things that are not their fault, but you know, I'm not talking about like, oh, I needed to use the bathroom and you were in there. Oh, sorry, I'll never use the bathroom. I'm talking about, you know, other stuff. But regardless, I don't feel the need necessarily to apologize for the way I spoke about the game in the last episode, especially because I was right. That being said, we could be a little bit more pleasant about it. Hold on, is it a golden key? I think I can do this. Give me the bomb. Give me bogo bombs and then the bomb and then No, this is okay. This is okay. We take Yeah, we take that. We also take our golden key. But then how are we gonna get in here, dummy? Yeah, something about that didn't feel right. I will say it is, you know, it's early on a Sunday morning here, so have mercy when I make a mistake that might seem, you know, unconscionable, or how could he possibly do this? You know, you might be watching this video on monitor 4. It's, you know, a Wednesday at noon Berlin time. You're fresh, you know, you just had some currywurst for lunch. You're an engineer, you do an analytical job. Maybe you work in IT, and you have to bite your tongue when people make mistakes, and you feel like you're the only person that has any degree of competency at your office. And then when you watch somebody play a video game and they make a mistake, you go, this is ridiculous. How could they possibly do that? I'm willing to be that outlet for you, but it is like 9:15 a.m. on a Sunday. I'm drinking the cups of coffee here. I'm getting up to speed. One way or the other, we didn't throw money away. We still got BOGO bombs. The only problem is we didn't get a single bomb that dropped after that. Not well played, but that's fine. It's fine. Anyway, all I'm trying to say is I do think, you know, my number one problem with Isaac, and we're not going to go into this too much in this episode because we covered it in the last one. My number one problem with Isaac, right now, if I could put it succinctly, great game. However, losing always feels bad. Not because you're losing, but because of, you know, the run that is required in order to create a loss at this level of expertise of the game. Which, you know, I'm not the best player in the world, but we kind of got most of it figured out. Is you need to have a run that's just not fun. Like, it's the tools of it are not fun. Anyway, what did I get up to this weekend? Not a whole heck of a lot, you know. We're still in. I mean, I don't know. Do you call it lockdown? It's kind of lockdown. You're not supposed to get together with anybody, but we don't get together with anybody to begin with, especially now that my mom has gone back to Ontario. I will admit, I did send a package. I went to DHL, which is, if you're not familiar, DHL, like a UPS, FedEx sort of situation, worldwide shipping. But, you know, we can't visit our, like my wife's sister and her family for Christmas. You know, normally we would just go across the border and do that, but for obvious reasons, we're not going to do that this year. So we were like, you know, her kids are 9 and 5, I think, at this point. We're going to send them, like, we bought some stuffed animals and stuff, and we're going to send them over. I got to tell you, it was, like, the most awkward shipping experience of my life. First off, the whole situation, I'm masked, the clerk is masked, so we can barely understand each other to begin with. Like, my hearing is, I think it's within the realm of, like, averageness. But I definitely do, like, you know, I think I had taken for granted in the before times, you know, how much I relied on being able to see somebody's mouth in order to understand what they're saying. Like, 99% of the time I can tell what somebody's saying, but sometimes you look at their mouth and you go, oh, they made a j sound instead of a g sound. That word that they used was probably this, right? With masks on and the speech muffled, and then like, and look, I'm not trying to, you know, like if you're working in a retail or pseudo retail environment, I'm not trying to, you know, make your life any harder. But a lot of people also have a tendency to maybe mumble a little bit, and then the masks emphasize the mumbling, and you know, you find yourself, like, every conversation I have, I feel like I'm 80 years old if I'm in some kind of like customer facing environment. They're like, sir, I don't want to be too loud because the baby's asleep upstairs, but, you know, sir, can you enter your information on the computer? And I'm like, huh? But, so already it was, like, kind of bad. And then add to this, and I should have thought about this before. This is my own fault. But there's two big things coming up that are going to make you a little upset with me. One is, I did ship it like 2 minutes before close. That's just how, I mean, if you ever have a situation to go into a store 2 minutes before it closes, I think I'm gonna lean into the newborn excuse for that one. Interesting. I don't really want to save store credit. Do I want Blue Candle? I kind of like having the trinkets, honestly. Am I really gonna buy 2 bombs? You know what? I guess I'm just gonna buy, like, the heart. Just to get something out of it. And it's not a lot, but... Oh, that's not the way you want to do that. Anyway, so it was very close to close, I will admit. And then the real problem with the situation, and this is one that I should have seen coming, is that I didn't pack the box. I have no idea what's inside of the box. I can only go on my wife's description of what's in the box. And I didn't realize that when you ship something, it makes sense, but when you ship something, you know, across international borders, they're gonna ask you what's in it. So the lady was like, what's in the box? And I was like, you seen Seven? Good movie. That's not what's in this box. That would be weird. But anyway, no, she's like, what's in the box? And I was like, it's like some toys and stuffed animals. They're Christmas gifts. And she goes, do you mind if I open it? And I go, yeah, no problem. So she starts pulling stuff out, and she goes, what's this? And I look at the box, and the box is like, in Japanese. And I'm looking at the picture trying to figure out, like, I think it's one of those, like, piggy banks where you put a coin on the box and then, like, a little cat hand comes out and pulls the coin into the box. But I don't really know. And I'm like, yeah, it's just like a toy. And then she goes, oh, are there any batteries in it? And I'm trying to decipher, you know, on the outside of the box, like, does it take any batteries? And I'm like, yeah, maybe. I'm making stuff up. I'm like, I think maybe it takes 1 watch battery. And then she's looking at the box and she finds, like, a picture of 2 AA batteries. And she's like, oh, it does take batteries. And I'm like, is that okay? And she's like, yeah, it's fine. And I'm like, well, if it's fine, why are we going through this song and dance? And that, like, it was so awkward. I was just like, I started texting Kate because I had to ask her some, like, follow-up questions about it before they would even let me send it. And I was just like, I'm never doing this, like, by myself ever again. You're coming in here to answer these questions if you pack the box. I was losing it. There was, like, some chocolate in the box. So, like, shipping food across international borders is a little spicy to begin with. Pun intended, I suppose. But, you know, first the lady was like, how many stuffed animals are in there? And I was like, I don't know, like, maybe 8 or something like that. 8 little stuffed animals. And then she's like, how much is each one worth? I'm not taking these, dude. I'm strong enough. And I was like, I don't know, like 10 bucks each. And then she said, because there was chocolate in there apparently, she's like, how much chocolate is in there? I was like, I don't know, a box. And she said, no, they're loose. And I said, oh, I don't know, like 10? And she said, no, there were more than 10. And at this point, I'm like, well, lady, you got me. Like, if this was, like, customs, I would definitely be turned away at the border. But, like, if you know how much is in there, why do you need me to just tell you the right answer? Like, can't you just write down, like, oh, I saw 50 in there? Anyway, so I texted Kate, and I was like, how many chocolates are in there? And she's like, I don't know, like 80? And I was like, $80 or 80 individually wrapped chocolates? And she said 80 individually wrapped chocolates. And then the clerk was like, so there's 80 chocolates, how much are they worth? And I was like, I don't know, like $40. And then she was like, well, I wrote down that the total value is 100, but then with the stuffed animals now combined with the chocolates, it would be like more like 150. And I'm like, I don't know what you want from me. At this point, I'm like, I can't tell if you have some kind of mandate from DHL where you just need me to say the answer that you feel is right in order for us to proceed, or like, don't get me wrong, I'm in the wrong here for not understanding what's in the package. I didn't think of that when I brought mail to the post office, but anyway. So long story short, that sucked. But I honestly have like a high degree of awkward tolerance. Like I feel like if you can lean into awkwardness in your life, is actually like a really valuable skill. I feel like too many people are concerned with the idea that, like, you know, they want to avoid awkwardness. You know, like, oh, I never want to experience awkward silences, or like I never want to say the wrong thing at the wrong time. I've long since transcended that belief. I believe that awkwardness is like entropy, like it always trends up. And the only way that you can lose is if you allow yourself to be rattled by the awkwardness. Like if you find yourself in a situation, you know, you're with a mutual friend, they introduce you to somebody you've never met before, and then they get pulled away to like speak to somebody else, and now you're there with this person you didn't maybe even really want to meet that much in the first place, but somebody else forced you to meet, and now you're both standing there awkwardly like, You know what a lot of people would say? Never say the expression, well, this is a little awkward. I very much disagree. I think it's a good way to assess where you stand. Be like, wow, this is a little awkward. Nice of our friend to just leave us here, right? And if they go, blah, 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 then you're like, you know what? I'm going to lean into it. If you had a truck, what would you put in it? If you're able to go full awkward, I'm re-rolling this run, by the way. I know our stats are good, our items are good. This is risky, but I don't care. This is not re-rolling the run. Never mind. I do care. Don't throw it away. Annoyed I haven't gotten HP yet, I guess is what I'm trying to get at here. That's where that all comes from. But anyway, that was the only thing I got up to on my weekend. A very awkward conversation with a DHL employee. Now, if my wife is like some kind of secret hidden sleeper agent, more power to her, I guess. First off, she is a heck of a mole, because she's so deep undercover she just had my baby. But then secondly, on top of that, you know, she picked a great target, because, you know, I don't really ask that many questions. But send this package, okay. Why is it going to the embassy in Tehran? You know, like, no, obviously I'm being sarcastic, but regardless. Not what I was talking about. That was my weekend. That was pretty much my weekend. Didn't get up to anything else. Actually, that's not true. I've been watching, you know, I missed like 3 weeks of episodes in The Mandalorian. So I've been watching that. I finally caught up this morning at about 5:45. The show just keeps getting better, dude. I honestly think that there is a case that that The Mandalorian might be... Well, okay, I haven't seen the new season of Better Call Saul yet, because they don't bring it to Canadian Netflix until like a year after its US release. So I'm perpetually one season behind. But I think there actually is a case to be made that The Mandalorian might be like 2020's best television show. I know it's Cape Poop. It's Cape Poop. I don't watch Cape Poop. I only watch reruns of The Sopranos. That's fine. I hear it's an amazing show, and you know, God rest James Gandolfini and all that. Let me out, please. Thank you. But it's actually just it's really good, and it's kind of like the perfect show for a year in which there are basically no movies. You know, it's like a cinematically shot and architected piece of media. I think it's, you know, everyone's so, I don't know if you've had experiences like this before, but it happens all the time, you know. Like season 1 of a show will come out. I remember having with Breaking Bad, you know, season 1 of Breaking Bad came out, and people were like, it's good. It's good. You should watch it. But you're like, you know, it's season 1. Who knows where this is going? Plus, it's good is not like that much of a glowing recommendation. By season 2, season 3, you couldn't escape, like, everybody that you knew was talking about it. Yo, did you see the new Breaking Bad? You gotta see the new Breaking Bad. That's kind of how I feel about The Mandalorian right now. Like, season 1, people were like, yeah, it's fun. It's entertaining. You know, it's slick. Baby Yoda's cute. Season 2 really feels more like, hey, they're really, like, this show's doing some good stuff right now. Yeah, we'll try car battery. We'll try car battery. Whoa. What happened to booger tears? What did I do with those? Did you just go through the... You just went through the rock, huh? I didn't know that could happen. Somebody tell Sinvicta. And also, somebody stop me! Yo, that's so good. Okay. Anyway, yeah, Mandalorian is a good show. I was thinking about it when I was doing the dishes last night. Just a little bit of a flex. I was doing the dishes. By the way. But I was thinking, like, can you imagine if you went back in... If I had a time machine, the number one thing that I would do is not what I'm about to tell you. I would probably go back, like, 3 years and be like, hey, buy Shopify stock. Take me down to the next floor here. But the second thing I would do is I would be like, check this out. They made a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I would go back to, like, 1996 and tell my 8-year-old self they're making a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I'd be like, what? That's crazy. And then I'd be like, and get this. It's the only movie that comes out for 8 months. I would want to see how 8-year-old me would react to that. Or, you know, if you go back in time to, like, you know, 2010, and you'll be like, hey, so 10 years from now, there's going to be a year where only 2 movies come out. Sonic the Hedgehog and Christopher Nolan's new movie. You'd be like, what the heck could have possibly happened to create that situation? I bring it up, you know, just because, you know, we're living in weird times, man. I know that it's like in March and April and, you know, May and June, you couldn't really escape the idea that like things felt surreal, at least to me. But then like it kind of became normal, right? And now like, you know, you're like, COVID, you know, it's not even like, I don't want to say it's not a big deal, but you've become so used to it that you're kind of ignorant to the fact, or you've become blind to the fact, I guess, that this is a kind of extremely unusual time, at least within living history. You know, obviously pandemics and, you know, other kind of like mass shutdowns and stuff like that have happened before for various reasons, but, you know, we've now been in it for so long that it just feels normal, you know? Like the idea that you have to like wait outside of the grocery store for a security guard to be like, yeah, you can go in now. Just feels normal. Which is crazy because like a year ago, if you had seen that scene, you would be like, what the heck is going on? Just trying to remind myself, like, it's one of those things where, like, I'm very careful about the way I phrase it, because, like, I don't want it to be like, don't take this time for granted. That's obviously not what I mean. If taking this time for granted helped it, you know, get resolved faster, I think that would be totally fine. Sadly, that's not how it works, so we would be way over it by now. But it's just, you know, kind of a reminder, maybe not to appreciate how unusual the times are, but just to be cognizant of it again, you know? It's been a long year, man. It's mighty crazy for me. Like, I'm not saying that I've had the worst year. Like, the year itself has been, you know, a blessing. For a variety of reasons, obviously, you know, chief amongst them, you know, we welcomed a new addition to our family. That's right, the PlayStation 5. We got a PS5. It's a Sony. Oh, look at it, it's even playing Demon Souls. Anyway. No, obviously we had a kid, but, you know, I think back to, like, how, I don't think they, well, I don't know how to take it. Is the human brain amazing at dealing with change, or does it have a hard time? Here's what I would say. I think that the human mind, thinks that that change is hard to adapt to, but actually we're very well suited to, you know, surviving these kind of, you know, turbulent situations, if that makes sense. You know, like within a year, went through like a pregnancy, still in the pandemic, had the baby, and now like the baby, I don't want to say like, you know, we're used to the baby, but it's like, you know, it's part of our routine now. Like, it's crazy to think that within, and part of it is due to the fact that, you know, like we basically kickstarted that whole process like at the perfect time to fit it in within one calendar year. But like if you look at like where we were at January 1st, 2020 versus where we're at like December 6th, 2020, it's crazy, man. Like if you could go back, it is a very selfish bit, I guess, but if you could go back and tell me on December 31st, 2019 and be like, yo, 1 year from now you're gonna have like a 2.5-month-old kid. Me in 2019 would be like, I wouldn't be like, no! I would be like, whoa, that's pretty crazy to think about how much life is gonna change. And then I'd be like, yeah, and get this. Also, like, the world as you know it, at least temporarily, is gonna change. You're not gonna be able to go to the grocery store for anecdotes anymore. No! Is Isaac still around? Yeah, but where do I get the bits for it? Oh, you just kind of like make them up. By the way, your most popular series is you playing chess in a browser capture window. What? Like, we would think like some kind of wave of like electromagnetic radiation hit Earth and propelled us into like Elon Musk's simulation universe or something. It's just like I think about it, like every year is, you know, things have changed a lot, but in particular, like the last year, it's been like a big one, a really big one. Anyway, this run's good. It's just, you know, I think it's valuable to step back sometimes and, you know, this is not to be overly sentimental or to like, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I think you could take it a number of different ways, you know? You could use it as, like, you know, it's empowering or it's sobering or whatever, but just interesting to think about. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, one of maybe not an adage, but like a phrase that I heard that stuck with me a lot, and it was when I was working out, but I really think it's true with respect to, like, a lot of different pursuits, but also, like, a lot of lenses that you can look at the world through. You know, people, historically and anecdotally as well, let me rephrase. They overestimate what they're able to accomplish in a short time frame and underestimate what they're able to accomplish in a long time frame. And with working out, it was always like, you know, well, not a great idea. Okay, not a great idea. You know, when people get into, you know, or when they're motivated to get into working out for the first time, usually, like, they'll try to find, like, I need to gain 20 pounds of muscle in 6 weeks. I need to lose 20 pounds of fat in 2 months, you know? Things that are, without getting into the thermodynamics of it, perhaps it's probably possible to change your weight plus or minus 20 pounds in 2 months, okay? You know, if you want to go on the Jared Leto, Christian Bale sort of either starvation or, you know, pharmaceutically enabled muscle building habits, then you can get that sort of stuff done for sure. But is it healthy and sustainable and, you know, plausible for the non-Hollywood actor to do while also maintaining, you know, like a good mood and another job? Probably not. So they always, you know, I shouldn't say they, because it's we, you know, it's we went blues, not they went blues. But there's always like a, I want this now. Meanwhile, we don't need it. Meanwhile, you know, if you think about, like, if instead of worrying about what happens in, like, 6 weeks, because you got to fit into that dress for your friend's wedding or whatever, or you're going to go to the beach and you're worried that your friends are going to make fun of you if you don't have a six-pack or something like that, which, you know, again, you know, I've been a teenager not so long ago. I understand, but you know, if instead of that you think about, like, okay, if I change, like, some small habits, like if I start exercising, you know, 3 times a week, and I, you know, stop eating so many corn-based snack foods mindlessly, like, if you really, 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 really want them, then whatever. But if you're like, it's just 8 p.m., time to eat the Doritos, you know, and you're not even, like, deriving any joy from it, imagine, you know, just those small changes, what life might look like in, like, you know, 2 years, for example. It's a long time scale. You know, you can almost not even imagine it right now, like, wow, 2022? But then I think back and I'm like, dude, 2 years ago was like 2018? That feels like yesterday. Mostly because no Isaac content has come out. So I think that the way that I, you know, am choosing to leverage that idea right now is, you know, if you look at it day to day, like day to day, we've had very few changes in life except for, you know, the day that everything shut down, and then also, yeah, the day that we had the baby. That was a pretty big one. But, you know, if you look at it on, like, a long time scale, think about how much change that you might have adapted to this year. That's pretty impressive. You know, you don't have to like it. I like the baby. Not such a big fan of the COVID stuff. But I don't think that's controversial. Most people are probably relatively pro their own baby and anti-pandemic. I don't think I'm in the minority position on that one. There are, I hate to say it, there are probably some pro-pandemic weirdos out there. Wearing a, you know, a tack vest when they walk down the street and going like, this is just to separate the strong from the weak. But those people, I don't know. I try not to interface with them on a regular basis. Sometimes because I'm bald and I have a beard, you know, they give me like an up nod in public. They're like, you're part of my, you know, crew here, and I'm like, nope, I have no marketable physical abilities whatsoever. I can jog. I'm kind of like, I'm an okay jogger. That's about it. Can I also tell you, like, I've had a little, it's a yogurt commercial I've had stuck in my head. I don't know how to do it, but I'm just going to say that here's how it goes. Life, liberté, and the pursuit of happiness. It's something along those lines, and I'm still working it through before I pitch it to the Liberté Corporation, who is a yogurt manufacturer, if you're not familiar. Please don't steal my idea. Copyright infringement intended. But yeah, you know, I think it does, it pays a little bit. To step back and be like, you know, like it's been a crazy year. Like 2020, and maybe I've said this about many years in the past. I think it's a common experience to kind of be in December, but this year especially feels like a combination of like the longest and the shortest years of all time. Like it feels like a long year because it's been March for 8 months, 9 months now. There was like a little month this summer, like maybe around July or June, where it wasn't March. Then it went right back to March. I think we're good to... Like, I just want the super trinkets. Haven't gotten them yet, but that's okay. We should still be fine, but I'll admit, we are a little HP deficient on this run. We haven't gotten a ton of help in that department, but our other stats are pretty slick. But, simultaneously, it feels like kind of a short year, because, like, very little, like, the signposts that normally demarcate things in a normal year, whether those are movies or sports or, you know, I always go to this concert in the summer, or, you know, oh, like, this is what school feels like in, you know, May or something, you know, like, you have these little signal markers that you use to, you know, kind of attach meaning to different times of the year. Those haven't really existed as much this year, at least, you know, for me. I'm sure for everybody, or for most people at least. But so it's like a weird year that's just kind of felt like being in like 2020's waiting room, right? It's very strange. Kind of, I mean, obviously the first time I've ever dealt with this in my life. Definitely a weird year to think back on, too. And I've been thinking about it, you know, like when our daughter's grown up, how am I going to explain 2020 to her? I mean, there's, you know, some words that I probably wouldn't say on YouTube that I'll reserve until, you know, maybe like, you know, the 2030s when I'm having this conversation with her. But the weird thing, I think this is what is so strange about it, is that, you know, you make changes to your life because there is, if not an existential threat, you know, at least some kind of ever-present, you know, danger. But the danger is also like so mundane that it's just like this weird whiplash, right? It's like, oh yeah, everyone was like, you know, staying inside more or less and trying to do their part to stem the tide of the pandemic. Oh, that must have been hard. Well, you know, like, obviously economically, like, a lot of people have suffered greatly, but, you know, like, if you're lucky enough to be able to work from home and have been unaffected, mostly you just, like, kind of are a little bored. It's the legacy of 2020. Again, my heart goes out, and I have the utmost sympathy for people that, you know, have found themselves materially affected or, you know, emotionally affected, whether, you know, due to the effects of the isolation or genuinely due to, you know, having had a family member afflicted with it, but, or a friend or whatever, or you personally. But, you know, I'm not trying to steal valor here. It's like when I look back on 2020, at least, you know, right now, knock on wood, I'll be like, yeah, like, it was pretty messed up, and, like, there were some times that were a little scary, but for the most part, we just kind of, like, watched, like, a lot of Netflix. And then we were, like, really busy because we had you. It's, you know, I gotta tell you, it's, you know, I guess I wouldn't go so far as to say, like, well, if you're gonna have a baby, try to do it during a global pandemic, because it did add a lot of complications into things, but then the secondary aspect is we weren't really planning on going out that much anyway, so you know, if I can be as hateable as possible here, it wasn't that much of an impact on our social life, at least. Yeah, just walk over that. Like, why wouldn't you, right? Anyway, it's you know, everybody's experience this year is obviously going to be a little bit different, but it's just crazy to think about how much things have changed. And then also, simultaneously, I have to acknowledge, like, you know, how lucky, you know, I have been and we've been as a family, not just to have had, like, an uncomplicated pregnancy and birth, but then on top of that to, you know, have been relatively insulated from the effects of the virus. I will say, part of the reason I think that I don't know anybody who's had the virus is because I really, like, don't have any friends. It's like me and Kate, and then my parents, her sister and brother-in-law, and then, like, Malf and everybody else in the NLSS crew. That's, like, that's my social network. So that might be a big part of that, but okay. We definitely want this. I actually think we want to hold Book of Revelations. We've been complaining about HP. We finally got the chance to maybe sort it out. Our damage won't be as good because we are losing the double effect on Curved Torn, but still. Anyway, I know anytime you talk about this stuff, it's controversial and, you know, it's, you know, one of those things I'm not afraid to, like, be at least a little controversial about. However, I mean, it's not controversial, right? Like, it's controversial within a very small subset of the community, but, you know, it's not my intention to stoke controversy. Rather, I'm just, you know, commenting on the fact that it's a unique year. And I am definitely not saying, like, take a breath and appreciate it. But I guess I am saying, you know, like, step back and be like, hey, we're almost through. It's not going to end, you know, December 31st, 2020. But hey, you know, if we're talking arbitrary milestones, we're almost there, at least for having made it through the calendar year. That's you got to take little victories where you can get them. That's the way I'm choosing to look at it, at least. But if I did have a time machine, I probably would not have gone back to tell myself that. Like the Sonic, I would definitely be like, just buy some Shopify stock. You're gonna be, trust me. Hey, by the way, there's some stuff coming up. 2020 is gonna get a little wild. However, what you need to do right now is go buy Shopify stock immediately. Anyway, this is not me giving you the advice, by the way, for now. This is me going, it's very easy to give historical stock advice. That's giving modern stock advice, I'm unqualified for. I would never, especially I would never use my platform to be like, hey, pump this stock up. But I do feel comfortable being like, hey, if you ever get a time machine, like, go back and maybe just, like, I don't know, buy some Tesla stock in, like, 2018 or something, and then, like, sell it today. You know, I'll give historical stock advice. That's where I'm at. There's an SNL segment for you. From the same mind that brought you George Washington learning about the future of America from a Jeopardy category called American History, and getting increasingly upset when he discovers that there's something called the Civil War coming in 100 years. Well, I guess 70 years. Sorry. I don't want to be pedantic about it, but from that same mind, here's Jim Cramer's Mad Money, but this time with the time machine. If you have a time machine and you go back to 1981, he smashes the bell, which causes sirens to erupt in the studio. Buy Xerox! Honestly, I kind of thought the run would be over by this point, and I would be free from having to continue this very cursed bit. That's why I started to do, like, the wrap-up, but obviously it's not the way that went down. And we're still here, which is fine. Like, this is not a bad run by any stretch. This is a pretty good run. We were slightly HP deficient. That's our only problem with this one. Everything else, A-okay, totally fine. I would like a chest, just because, like, when you're holding the Yara, you're like, come on, man. Like, I've got a Yara on the chest. It's perfect timing. Anyway, what else is on the go today? Well, like in terms of like work, there's been a lot of, like, the last 2 weeks have been insanely busy, lots of sponsor stuff, and then the AOC and Jugmeat Sing stream. You know, the planning of it actually was not that involved, really. Like, it didn't take that much time, but of course, you know, the stream itself was a few hours long, plus, you know, the actual setup time for it. Like, the organization of it was pretty hands-off, but the, you know, the actual technical troubleshooting in advance of it took a while. But suffice it to say, this week I'm honestly trying to, like, pull a little bit out of the work bucket and put it back in, like, the really, like, the domestic bucket. That's why I was flexing about doing the dishes. I think I could help out a little bit more around the house, especially because when you have a baby, you end up doing the laundry like 3 times a day. But anyway, sometimes she just, you know, like yesterday, I was changing her diaper because she pooped in it, and then, you know, she looked at me dead in the eyes and she went, "Ah." And I was like, that's the clearest "ah" sound she's ever made. So I was like, yo, good job. She had the biggest smile on her face, lit up the whole room. It was a magical moment. And then without making another sound, just an endless fountain of milk started pouring from her mouth all over, like, her face. And then it got in, like, the crease between her chin and her neck. Got all over her clothes. You end up doing the laundry a lot. Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. That was a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. See ya.